never give up on what you really want to achieve. Because there's some of the greatest athletes and some of the greatest minds about the 21st century had a really bad school life. So it's not the be all and end all.
Zaine has never felt like he fits in, but that hasn't stopped him striving to live the fulfilled life he believes he can have.
I one day want to have a profile that's large enough in this country that I can speak publicly about autism.
Zaine's made big strides to carve out a place in the world, and rather than shy away from people, he's become a small business owner running a pub to challenge himself and grow. Despite all his hardships, Zaine is highly motivated and focused on achieving his version of success. He's very outspoken about his struggles with autism and mental health in general, and wants to inspire others on the spectrum to go after what they want.
But there are a couple of people who are have got Asperger's who are very well known around the world, but they've never really spoke out about it. And it's because it's still a bit of a taboo conversation.
Welcome to Young Blood, a podcast all about young men's health. My name's Callum McPherson, I'm a journalist, and this is our mission to talk about the stuff that matters and isn't talked about enough. Let's do it. All right, Zaine, what has living with autism meant for you in your life?
Oh, geez. Thank you very much for having me, Callum. To be honest, mate, it's been very challenging at certain times in my life. When I first had it at a young age, it wasn't really not many people knew about it. Actually, at the time when I was in kindergarten and I was throwing sand at people all the time and getting people's eyes and laughing about it, they thought I actually had something wrong with me mentally in my brain. They thought I was like satanic or something. And that's when mum and dad knew that there was something different about me, because I was doing things that were a bit unusual compared to the other kids in the playgrounds. And I got into severe trouble a few times. Then I went to PAC and they actually wanted me to take these drugs. You know, I've got nothing against PAC, but the former principal there, anyone who was slightly different was asked to take certain drugs. I won't name what they are because they are pretty crazy. But one of them he wanted me to take because he thought my behavior was so different to everyone else would have actually affected my brain stability and brain control when I get older. Because one person who actually took those drugs is now can't function properly brain-wise. So I didn't want to take that risk. So I got expelled from PAC in year 2. And then I went on to Linden Park. And at that time, no one knew about autism. It wasn't a known thing. And I was one of the first people, especially in the public school industry, at the time, to explain about what autism was. And I got a couple of speakers to go in and explain it. But yeah, man, school was tough. I was a good sportsman, but it was very difficult to play sport on a daily basis. It was very difficult to handle life on a daily basis because I actually didn't know who my real friends were, who were, if they were just being because I was good at sport, or if I was, if they were trying to use me as because my family name's quite well known in Adelaide as well. So some people have used my family name as well to hang out with me over the years.
Can you just explain for people who don't know, just put into words what your form of autism is and what that actually means?
Okay, so there's three levels of the spectrum. I'm on level 2. Level 1 means basically you have a normal daily life, but you might have some different types of things. Level 2, which is me, I struggle with certain things on a social daily basis, but I've done years and years of therapy to learn how to communicate. Level 3 is actually very, very severe. A couple of people I know, they actually have never been to high school because they physically cannot handle being in a social situation with a certain amount of people. Actually, it was lovely. Actually, one of the gentlemen who I know who has autism actually came to the hotel about 2 months ago, and I hadn't seen him since year 2. His name's James. That's all I'll say. And he was... it's just the amount of training and stuff, because he couldn't talk properly in those days. And now he can, be a normal person. But it took him 10, 12 years of full-on training and homeschooling and teaching him how to speak in a social situation. So it's something people need to realize. It's not that easy. It affects a lot of things. It affects your relationships with girls, with guys, whatever your preference is. And your parents as well, because it comes very, 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 very severe on them. They spent thousands and thousands of dollars on all types of therapy in those days, and there's no benefits in those days. It was fully out of your pocket. I think most sessions cost about $2,000 a session.
So just describe what it's like for you in social situations.
These days, to be honest, man, I still have days where I struggle with it. There's ways I look at it now. I think when I was at school, I was quite a small guy as well. So I grew a lot at a young when I left school, just after I left school. So when I was at school, I was just under 6 foot, which is small compared to now. I'm about 6'5" now, and it's hard to talk about sometimes. I'm not going to lie, but it's I was bullied for 12 years of my life. That's pretty much the reality. There's a lot of people from school who've reached out to me since those days and have apologized. They've apologized, but they've never really came and spoke to me personally. They've apologized over social media. So to be honest, when you apologize over social media, that's not good enough in my opinion.
What impact did that bullying have on you, and what did that look like?
What did that impact on me? It made me realize that I'm probably going to have an issue with certain people for the rest of my days. I wanted to prove everyone wrong. Everyone believed that I thought I was going to not finish school. I did. Don't get me wrong, I didn't get the greatest of grades, but year 12 was extremely difficult.
Learning wise, what's the challenge with having autism for things like school? And
oh geez, man, trying to concentrate every daily basis when you know you're going to get bullied every day, it's pretty difficult. If I had the same knowledge I had about autism now when I was that age, I probably would have gone about things a lot differently. But man, some days I used to come home like besides myself. I almost committed suicide 3 times during year 10 and year 11 and 12. So it got pretty hectic. And I used to tell, the people, the staff at Pembroke all the time, but most of the time I had no idea because it was still very new. This is 10, 11 years ago now. Now it's a different story. There's all different programs and everything like that. And one of my goals one day with autism is to be an ambassador for them and hopefully one day use my profile when I'm large enough to help them out.
And so what got you through that extremely difficult time in high school?
Belief that I know I could do it. Playing sport every day. It definitely helped. Playing cricket and football all the time. Some people won't agree with me, but I know my belief and I know my abilities in sport. If I didn't have the grievances I had throughout school every day, I believe I would have been a lot better sportsman. I think I would have played if I did play some different higher honours, but I would have played even higher honours in my opinion. I know how good I was at certain sports, but I just couldn't concentrate.
How do you feel in yourself now compared to 10 years ago?
Jeez. I have days, man, where I still struggle. A lot of people still don't understand what it's like. That's another reason why, a lot of people ask me why do they get into the gym? Because I wanted to be in control of certain things that no one else could be in control of by myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, when people see me after 10 years, they're just like, I look nothing like I do when I did 10 years ago.
And do you like the routine of that, the discipline of having to do it every day?
Yeah, I do. 100%. I've had some major setbacks with my training as well. I could go through heaps of things. Like I said to you on the way in here, I've had about 30 to 40 injuries with sport and training over the years. So my body's taken an absolute battering. But that's what I used to do. I used to push myself to hell because I didn't want to think about what was going on in my personal life.
And so how does your physicality and working on your body and giving yourself that space to exercise and build all that, how essential is that to your life and feeling calm?
Well, for the last few years, it's actually been quite tough to train because my body's just broken down so many times. I've got some pretty bad back injuries and I've got a bad shoulder. One of my left shoulders is it goes in and out all the time. I see a very good therapist. Shout out to Katie Williams. She's fantastic. She's actually the former sports therapist of the 36ers. So I've got someone really good there helping me out with that. And and I'm about to start seeing another sports chiropractor because it's just getting to the point that I have to manage it every day. So,
what does training mean to you though in your mind state?
Mind state, it keeps me from not wanting to do silly things. There's some days, man, that I just want to give up, and then there are days that I'm like, why would you ever give up after all this time? I know a lot of people will never understand me, but the goal is one day everyone respects me.
How do you approach your life now?
How do I approach it? In what way are you talking about there, mate?
Like when you wake up in the morning, what motivates you? What drives you? What do you want to get out of the day?
My goal is to be a better person by the end of the day, create a better atmosphere for myself, keep creating my own legacy as a person, build my business, and also just focus on trying to improve as a person as much as I can. There are going to be days where you don't do as best as you can, and that's the key for me, is to try not to get too down on myself, because I'm a very passionate person. I take things to heart quite a lot. So if I have a bad day at work, it will take me a few hours when I get home to get over it. So that's something I'm working on, trying to not take my stress from work, having businesses at that's why some people are owners and some people are employees, because the certain stresses are extremely extreme, and some people can handle it, some people can't. But
so just talk a little bit about that, about your business, running the pub. Why did you get into that? I mean, you put yourself in a very social setting. Did you do that on purpose?
Well, it's all started really I've done a few things now. 28 now, so I did a bit of a supplement thing with a mate for a while. That was pretty cool, with a bunch of our friends, and that was to pick up girls. That's to be brutally honest. It was a lot of fun at the time. We were young and dumb and stupid. Then I went into the same time I was doing my uni degree, and I was doing media communications, 1.5 years into it. And then my old man, who's a well-known entrepreneur in Adelaide, he came up with this idea of using one of his combis for a mobile cafe. And we sat down one day and came up with this plan, and that's where the combis was born. And that was 4.5 to 5 years of my life, and it became a bit of an institution in Rundle Mall. Basically, that paid for me to buy the hotel, and it provided me a very good life.
And that's like a drinks truck or a food truck?
The mobile cafe.
Yeah.
We were doing 300 to 400 sandwiches and 300 to 400 coffees a day.
A lot of sandwiches.
Correct. Now there was 7 staff as well, so it was quite a bit of an operation. Open from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night most days. Sundays were 9 till 5 from memory.
So were you passionate about that?
I just love business, man. I've always wanted to be very successful. I'm a firm believer that no matter what you want to do in life, if you put 100% in, maybe one day you'll fail. You might fail for the next 10 years, but the day you actually succeed is the day that, will change your life. And I haven't succeeded yet, but I've got some big goals for myself, for my businesses. And, how can I put it this way? So seeing the failures of businesses and the up and downs of businesses already at 28 years old. So I've been in business now for 5, 6 years, or 7 years, sorry. I've seen the stresses it comes with it. But I love it because I wouldn't want to work for anyone else. There's no way. After you're working for yourself, you don't want to work for anyone else because you're working to their dreams, not your own.
So tell me about the pressure of running a business. Explain it.
Okay. Which are you talking about? You talking about the pub, or just talking about businesses?
Yeah. I mean the pub for you. What kind of stress does it bring to your life?
Like I said, I'm not trying to make this about me. Well, it is about me, but I make this more about. But my family's very well known in the pub industry. My old man is Zaine Schmidt. Anyone was around in the 80s and 90s would know exactly who he is. He developed Cooper's Pale Ale with Maxwell Cooper. Yes, that's correct, Cooper's Pale Ale. He brought Cooper's to Sydney and Melbourne. He did things that people would dream about. You see the things now you see in hotels and pubs. Dad did those 30 years ago. The new Whitmore, for example, I walk in there and it looks exactly like what it was 30 years ago, you know.
So do you have a chip on your shoulder about that?
Not at all, man. I've got a legacy to live up to, yes, but I've also got my own legacy to build too. So I've actually done it the old way, like he did when he got his first hotel. He didn't take a loan out, nothing. It was all his own money. Same with me. I've put every cent I've got into this place besides one account, but that's for old Zaine. So. And
how does having autism affect your ability to do business and make it?
You have days, man, where sometimes you're like, I don't want to deal with a certain customer, especially when you get an annoyed customer. But I've got a wonderful manager. Shout out to Simon Schumann. He's fantastic. He's actually his parents got married in one of my parents' first hotels in 1983, the Rising Sun on Kensington Road there. They got married in there, so I've known him my whole life. And he's did a apprenticeship with Penfolds Winer, and he was the function and wine manager there for a while. So he's come on board to help me a little bit as well and take a little bit of the stress off me, which is lovely. Don't get me wrong, man. The pub industry is very difficult these days. Like I said, I've got the Whitmore down the road from me. I've got the King's Head, which is a fantastic pub. They're all great pubs, and they're all great in their own way. The Elephant Castle, and you've got the Gilbert Street Hotel. They're about the 5 in the area. Oh, and the Duke of Brunswick, my apologies. And if you look at them, they're all very different in their own way.
Did you have people say that, someone with Asperger's isn't capable of running a pub and having a business like that?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah. A lot of people thought that I would never ever get anywhere, full stop. Most people thought I'd be on Centrelink, which is pretty funny.
People used to tell you that as well?
100%, man.
Tell me about that and how that made you feel. And
just maybe more hungry to do better. And that's probably why me and my father, we do clash a fair bit when it comes to when we think about businesses and how they should be run. Because he's done things very differently to a lot of different people, but then I'm trying to build my own legacy. So I'm trying to people not to think that I'm just Anthony Schmidt's son. I am Zaine Schmidt. I am my own person. I'm trying to build a different legacy to what I think will work. And the thing I'm learning, and I'm only 18 months into owning a pub, is that the game's changed a lot.
Do you think there's a belief out there that people with a condition like yours can't go and do these sorts of things?
Absolutely.
Because it's a big undertaking running a business like that. That's not easy to do.
No, it's definitely very stressful. It's one of the reasons why I'm still single, man. That's brutally honest. I just don't have time at the moment to have a female in my life who actually can understand my situation. Working 80, 90 hours a week, kind of keep fit and healthy, also taking care of the staff, keeping them happy. It's a 24-hour
pretty much
thing.
All the hours.
Exactly, man. It takes up a lot of your time, and I've made it very clear to myself, and I said to myself the next 3 or 4 years is that I'll just dedicate everything I can to my businesses and staying in healthy and shape, because I've got plenty of time for other stuff like that.
And so what do you define as success?
3 things. 1, happiness. 2, being financially well off, meaning that you basically have financial security. You can do a lot of things. So, for example, when you're successful, you can, like tomorrow, you can be like, I can go tomorrow, I can go overseas tomorrow, or I can go buy a house that I want to buy tomorrow. That's to me is financially successful. Other successes, the 3 things that I look at that to me is, like I said, happiness, finance, and then also a balanced life. You have those 3 things, everything else falls into place. If you read about Dwayne Johnson, some of the greats, you hear about, he says that, about balanced life, but you still got to work your ass off though to get that balanced life. So,
You must feel like you're not quite in balance at the moment, though. You're working pretty hard on the financial side of things.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm 28 years old. I'm at the age where I can do it. I'd rather work as hard as I humanly can at this age and get as far as I can before, I had a goal when I was 18 to be a millionaire by 30 years old. Now that's not going to happen. So that also.
Hey, don't say that, bro.
I don't think so, man. Like, if I can, all right, mate, if that happened, man, you never know. Like I said, it could happen. You are right. But I've worked out, the way the economy works and how things are going this day and age.
Are you proud of yourself so far?
Proud? No, because I haven't achieved what I want to achieve yet.
But you must have achieved a lot along the way. You got to recognize that too, not just the end goal.
Thank you.
What about coming from where you were mentally when you were in high school to where you are now?
Oh, mentally, I'm a wholly different person. You can actually hold a conversation with me. 10 years ago, you couldn't. I was a train wreck, really. I was a nervous wreck. I'm happy to be honest with you. Until about 16, 17, I couldn't even talk to a female, full stop. A gentleman who's a dear friend of mine, who we fight like cats and dogs because we're like, it's weird. We're like we're like brothers, me and Will Giles, as you know Will. He's a good friend of mine. He's seriously a busy man these days, so we just talk when we can, and we catch up for lunch when we can because we're both extremely busy people. And I got to give a lot of shout out to him and Jamie Skippon as well, who now lives in Melbourne. Those two boys helped me a lot to build my social awareness and how to communicate outside of the bearings of school and football games and things like that, and also talking to females. So got to give a lot to them, and also the hundreds of hours of therapy as well. So they are the three things I would say that definitely helped me a lot.
So what would you say to your younger self who was, in that dark place all those years ago?
Never give up on what you really want to achieve. Because there's some of the greatest athletes and some of the greatest minds of the 21st century had a really bad school life. So it's not the be all and end all. If I one day, hopefully I have a young one day, and I will say to him, if he doesn't want to go to university, that doesn't bother me anymore, because you look at the statistics, most people going to university actually don't even get into the degrees they want. Well, they get the degrees, but they don't get into the job they want. I got plenty of friends who wanted to be lawyers, but they had to change because there's just not enough spots for being lawyers anymore. So if you have any dream or any goal, write it down, but never give up on it. You can maybe think about it in 5 years' time. You could do it now, but those dreams you've got, you've still got plenty of time to do them.
Is that what keeps you going when you have these days that you're talking about that are really tough? Are you able to conjure that thought back into your mind, and that allows you to calm down and stay focused?
Yeah, man, 100%. A lot of people wouldn't, unless they've walked my shoes, will never understand what it's like to live with autism and Asperger syndrome, because basically I'll give you a little bit of a rundown about it. Asperger syndrome, basically, there's a neutron in our brain that sends a signal that we're not born with. So I think of about 300-400 things at the same time, every day and at all times. But I only think of about one or two that I'm going to say, and I'll say them without thinking.
Right.
So that's got me in some serious problems over the years. Also, as well, we're born, it's very hard for us to sleep too. Sleeping is very difficult.
So just give us a little bit of an example of some of those problems that you had from that.
Sleeping-wise?
No, from saying things at random.
Okay. Telling a woman that she was fat when I shouldn't have. Telling a bloke.
No one should ever do that.
Agreed. And she wasn't. That's the thing as well. It's even worse. I've told some very high level people in Adelaide to get fucked in certain meetings. I'm being honest here, man. And I've told my mates, basically, that they've just certain things that I shouldn't have said. But
and at the time, did you feel like you didn't actually mean to say that? Like those are thoughts that you think, but you don't mean to say, and then come out?
100%.
Right.
Like sometimes these days I have control my behavior a lot better, but when I was younger, it was a lot more difficult.
So it's like involuntary?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So I think describing it that way, people can try to understand what that might be like. Because, how often do we think something where we say, well, I wouldn't say that.
No,
but
exactly.
Then you just do. So, but through your therapy, you've been able to control that more.
Yeah, 100%, man. it's like I said, like, you know, in those days when it was costing my parents $2,000 an hour, so you have 3 or 4 sessions a week, it adds a lot.
Right.
So my parents spent a fortune on me in my school and my life, so I can't thank them enough.
Okay.
And they busted their butts to keep me above, you know, without doing anything silly. I got to thank a lot. I got to thank enough for those two as well, especially my mum. My mum's amazing, most incredible woman I've ever met in my life. I think that's another reason why I'm still single as well, because trying to find someone that's half as good as my mum as a person, not just the way she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen as well.
What she always said to you?
She's always said to me that you've just got to follow your dreams, but also you've got to be the person you want to be. And that could change over the years. One thing I've always been, I'm a big giant teddy bear, meaning that I wouldn't harm a fly.
And you are a big guy too. You are like massive when you stand up. How tall are you?
6'5".
Yeah. Far out. Okay. That's a big teddy bear.
Yeah, no, I am a giant teddy bear, and I'm very I wouldn't hurt anyone, but I've done a bit of security in my time, so I've had to wrestle a few people out of clubs, but it takes a lot to get me really angry. When I'm really angry, it's quite a scary sight. So I'm very, very
You
aware.
wouldn't like him when he's angry.
No, it's not good. And especially when I used to bodybuild properly when I was in my early 20s, because that got me so much. That got completely off my mind what was going on in my personal life. I used to take it so seriously to the point that I was eating 8-9 meals a day. I was training once, twice a day. I would time every meal. I couldn't believe I did this, but I did it. I took to my best mate's wedding a bowl of rice and chicken and ate it at the reception. You can ask him too. Manny Mission, love you, buddy. One of the top pediatricians in Adelaide. He's also been recognised by Adelaide Uni and actually does a lot of stuff for uni, which is pretty cool. But yeah, no, I did one of his best man wedding speeches, and yeah, I was eating 500 grams of rice and 250 grams of chicken at the reception.
Did you realise that you'd taken it a bit too far?
Yeah, that was the time. Yep, 100%. And then I was sitting around at my biggest. I was 130.
That's a big boy.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty nuts. There's a photo of me on my Facebook where I actually physically couldn't get through the door sideways. I had to go sideways. It was pretty nuts. My ex-girlfriend at the time, Georgia Wilhelm, who's now a marketing person in Canada. So good luck to her. I hope she's doing well. She took the photo, and it's still apparently one of the most scariest photos she's ever seen. So, and I had a full-on Wolverine beard at the time as well. So it was, pretty intense when I look at that photo now. I'm sitting around 118, 119 now. So it's about 10 kilos of pure size. It's a lot.
It's still, I would say, 120 is still pretty up there, right?
Yeah, no, I like I said, man, I'm very, very critical of myself.
So what do you like? Do you like being this big? Do you feel like that gives you some sort of more of an identity, or what is it?
Man, like I said, when I was 130, man, I felt invincible in a way. Whenever I walked anywhere, I was one of the largest people around. And that gave me a lot of confidence when I walked anywhere. So I went up to any girl and felt really comfortable. Probably shouldn't have, some of them actually. I just didn't care. And there were guys who would get in my way and I'd shove them out the way.
Did you like being like that though?
No, not at all. I turned into a very arrogant young man. Extremely. When you're that size, dude, like everyone looks like a little kid next to you. And that's being honest.
But did you feel like a bit of a prick acting like that?
Absolutely, man. I came a bully like I was to people who used to bully me.
Yeah. So part of that was wanting to get it back because you'd been treated poorly. So
100%. And
but that's often the case, isn't it? When someone's been treated badly and they do it, but you want to be stronger than that. And not.
Absolutely. I have to admit it. Like I said, I would be completely honest on this podcast. I've definitely treated some women the wrong way. And treated some mates the wrong way. Especially I've backstabbed some mates because I thought I was just too good for them and too good for myself. I was in a dark place mentally, and I used to just train and take as much gas as humanly possibly can. I'm not gonna lie, I've taken gas no one would believe me that I haven't.
Just explain what that is for people who don't know the term.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Okay. Gas is steroids, guys. So steroids is basically helps improve muscle and improve recovery. At my largest, I was trained by Mr. Australia, Chris Jarvis, and I was on about 10 mils of gas a week.
And so what did that do for you mentally, especially having, your condition?
Oh, mate, I was all over the joint. I was angry. If I didn't get my meals in, I was just the wrong person to be around. I didn't go out and didn't see people. I'd rather sit in bed and eat my meals, and I became too obsessive.
What did you notice about your thought patterns and how that affected your autism when you were on steroids?
It made me a person that it looked like I was doing great by Facebook, Instagram, the way I looked. So I got a shitload of attention. So that kept me going. But at the time, every day was a struggle because I knew that it wasn't the real me, the way I was feeling. And I would go to the gym sometimes, and when some people used to annoy me, I would just kick off. And not proud of some of the things I've done over the years, but you can't change that. Now I'm a lot smarter with my training. I train 45 minutes to an hour now. I used to train 2 hours a night, sometimes 2 hours in the morning as well. It depends on how I felt. And I just do it because I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, man. I would love to take it further again and train. I would love to get up to the level I wanted to when I was younger. But I've got to focus on this business at the moment and get that right first. But I've got 2 goals that I really want. I want to become the most successful as I can as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, and as a person. But I also would love to get back into modeling. When I was younger, I used to do fitness modeling as well. So I'd love.
You're going to need a lot of time to fit all this stuff in, man. You're not going to be able to do 80 hours a week at the pub and do all that.
And that's why the goal is I can be able to be there. So I'm just started delegating actually. Just recently, I've just stepped back a little bit and given a few more responsibilities to my manager.
Would people say that that's too ambitious for someone with your condition to go and do all those things?
Watch me. I'm 28, but some people say life starts at 30. I'm only 28 years old.
So what would you say to other people on the spectrum at the same level as you who perhaps are younger and perhaps are having some of those thoughts and feelings that you had?
Yep. If they ever need advice, I'm happy to tell you what it's like to live with it. And just follow your dreams, follow your goals. Anyone can do it. Your autism shouldn't stop you. Don't get me wrong, you're going to get bullied. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get girls treat you like shit. And you're going to probably do it in the back if, because it's just human nature, unfortunately. And it's so important that we think about, how we teach kids with mental issues the right way. Not to tell them to hide the way. It should be talked about openly and honestly. Because if it was more at my school when I was that age, I would have been a lot more easier to be around.
How did people treat you and how have they treated you throughout your life generally?
Jeez. Life's been difficult sometimes, man. I'm not going to lie. There's been times, like I said, during school and during my early 20s that I sort of committing suicide. Trust me, I've had times in the last couple of years. I've thought about it too, but I'm one of the most mentally strong people you'll ever meet. It takes a lot to break me.
What sort of stuff do people say when they're bullying you or, being mean to you?
Okay, well, I'll give an example. I was at my high school union recently, and you saw that post. I think the whole of Adelaide saw that post. And long story short, everyone just ignored me. They didn't want anything to do with me because I think it's because I looked so different. Everyone I saw there hadn't changed. Like, they hadn't physically changed, they hadn't mentally changed, they hadn't socially changed. They didn't want to listen. They were like, oh, you're working at a pub. I'm like, no, mate, I own it. I don't work for people. I work for myself because that's what I want to do. And just like, people were giving a go at me about, certain things. And it's, he was a bit of a dagger in the heart as well. The organizer of the event decided to go with the Cumberland Hotel when she knew, and everyone knew, that I owned a hotel. And that was a real stab in the back because they easily could have used me. Got more than enough room. It's a beautiful old school hotel. It's the third oldest hotel in Adelaide, so it's just a beautiful old school hotel. Isn't like no disrespect to the Cumbie. Wonderful, wonderful place. Shout out to Ben Pierce, great mate. He's a great dude and he's done an amazing job with it. What really hurt me with that is that she knew how much that would hurt, and she did it anyway, and organised it. And I've spoken to probably about 50, 60 people from that reunion since that day, and they all said it was horrendous. Number one. Number two, should have been at my pub because I went to school there. Ben Pierce didn't go to Pembroke. Cumbie people never went to Pembroke. I went to Pembroke. And that was a real stab in the back. It made me realise that they hadn't grown up. It made me realise that they did not want to see me succeed. Pembroke people have never wanted to see me succeed. People who went to school with me never wanted me to succeed. There's only a couple of people.
Why do you think that is, or why do you feel that way? Why do you think they have that perception of you, or what makes you say that?
Because I'm different. I don't speak the same drum. I don't go out, and I didn't. When I was especially when I got really big and large in training, I said no to drinking. I drank, but I drank different times. But I didn't go out and have binges and eat palmies and things like that, and all stuff like that. And people don't like different people, Callum. As much as people want to say they do, they don't, because I've seen it way too many times that whenever you're slightly different, people run.
Do you think that's because it's too challenging to the norm?
Yep, 100%. Mentally, it's challenging. You think to yourself, you're like, why is it that people don't like me as that person? And I say to them, the most important thing to them is to think like, it's because so many people are used to a certain way of life. When someone's slightly different, they don't know how to handle it. Also, communication skills this day and age is atrocious compared to what it used to be 20 years ago. Most people sit on their phones. Don't get me wrong, I sit on my phone, but also all my business stuff goes through my phone. But when I'm in a conversation with someone, my phone is turned around. I went out with a good friend of mine, lovely girl, but the other day, she's a really good friend of mine, and I have a lot of time for her, but she physically cannot put her phone down during a conversation. And I got mates who are like that, and they just cannot put their phones down.
Do you feel like you communicate better than some people that don't have autism?
Sometimes, yeah. Also, as well, I've been thrown in the deep end. Dad's taken me to meetings with some pretty scary people high up. I've met the CEO of Coke. I'm good friends with a lot of the top winemakers in Adelaide. So I know Trent Burge, Grant Burge, know Wolf Blass, Cockatoo Ridge, Torbrick, all the owners. I all personally know. People who can spend thousands of dollars to go see for an event. I'm good friends with like Sarah Marquis, who won the Telstra Business of the Year for wines. She's a friend of mine. Most people, they go crazy when they see her. But to me, and I've tried to keep this podcast more to myself, about myself, but I could, if you want me to tell you a little bit about my parents, like I was around people when I was young, man. I had George Harrison at my house when I was young. When I was playing basketball with him when I was 5. There's photos of me playing basketball with him at 5 years old. George Harrison, the Beatle himself. Then there's a photo at in our house. You've got Bernie Eccleston, Alan Willard, Rupert Trefadis, Nigel Stepney, Mel Hemmerling, and one other gentleman. Put this in perspective. Bernie Eccleston's the F1 boss. Alan Willard is his two-hand man. Rupert Trefadis was the manager of Mika Hakkinen. The other one was the manager of Michael Schumacher. Mel Hemmerling was one of the reasons why Adelaide brought the Grand Prix over. And the other one was Peter Ustinov, who's an actor.
So having those kinds of people around your family and yourself while you're growing up, what's the impact of that? Do you idolize being like them?
Of course I want to be at that level, man. But also as well, I've learnt that celebrities are just people. They're just people. They're not, that's why I don't get crazy over celebrities. I never have. The only person I definitely really got gaga over when I was young was Adam Gilchrist, who's my favourite cricketer. I just loved him. I just thought he was incredible.
Do you feel like you need to have a name like that to qualify your version of what success is?
Like I said, I one day want to have a profile that's large enough in this country that I can speak publicly about autism consistently, do talks about it, talk about what it's like to live with it, talk about what the struggles, the tribulations. I'd love to start up my own foundation one day.
Right. So you feel like the more that you can
build my profile,
achieve personally, the louder your microphone will be.
Correct. But also,
and so why are you so passionate about wanting to be a representative for autism and really help others who have gone through something similar?
Because I think there's not a voice yet for autism yet. But there are a couple of people who are have got Asperger's who are very well known around the world, but they've never really spoke out about it. And it's because it's still a bit of a taboo conversation. There's been times, man, I'm going to be honest, I've had girls actually, they've actually stood me up on dates when they found out that I have Asperger's syndrome. No, that's not even a joke. I was at a beautiful Italian restaurant when I was about 23, just before one of my ladies came into my life at the time. And she got a text from one of her friends saying, "You realise that Zaine has Asperger's syndrome." And that's how I found this out after what happened. I was waiting imagine waiting at an Italian restaurant, and you're the only table. It's one of the busy places. It was Amalfi. This is like a few years ago now. And I was just waiting there, and I was just like, really? Is this really happening to me? And then I got a message saying, she said, "I just can't do this. And this is about an hour in." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I can't deal with what you've got."
That hurts.
Oh yeah, 100%. And a lot of people never admit it, but there's a lot of people in this state that would never, ever, ever listen or want to go out with someone with autism because they just don't have the courage or the willing to understand it. Yeah.
So how do you internalize that, swallow that pain, and then push past that, something like that?
I'm good at fronting up, mate. I'm good at fronting up.
What do you mean?
Meaning that I'm very good at putting a wall up. I've learned how to put up a wall, because if you don't, you're just going to get eaten alive by a lot of people.
What do you need to get past that, though? Do you need someone who understands? Or
yeah, of course. I have a couple of sounding boards. I ring a couple of mates who, if I ever really need some serious advice and I don't really know who to turn to, I'll ring a couple of my good mates, and they know who they are, and they've helped me a lot. In my whole life, I've never really had a proper friendship group, though. What I mean by that is that, I don't know what you have, Callum, but I'm sure you've got a good bunch of mates.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And you hang out with them quite regularly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had that. The ones who did at school, I thought were my real friends. They used to use me as a bit of entertainment. I was in a high school bubble.
So you'd still hang out with them, but they'd kind of laugh at you and make
Correct.
fun of you and stuff. Yeah.
Correct. They'd always make me do dumb shit.
And you would keep doing it because you better to have that than nothing.
To feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
But ever since high school, I've never really had a proper group of mates. I've got mates.
You must have known that, though, and felt pretty horrible the whole time.
I did.
Yeah.
I've never really. Well, there are some times, man, that I work so hard that I'll work till I'll drop dead because just not think about my lack of social life. like I said, I've got mates, but they're all different. They're all spread apart, and a lot of them are too busy. They're just busy with their own lives, and I understand that because I'm doing the same thing.
So where do friends sit for you in terms of a priority or a factor in your life? Do you need friends? Do you still look for friends, or do you shut that down? Yeah.
Of course, man. I would love to be, like I said, man, I'd love to be settled down. I'd love to be with someone right now. I'd love to have a good bunch of mates, but I understand that a lot of people don't want to put the time into me. I've burnt a lot of people as well when I was younger because I was such an arrogant asshole.
So where does that leave you?
Just time. It's just going to take time. Like I said, like Will, one of my very good friends, I've burnt him a lot. We burnt each other a fair bit. Mainly myself. I've mainly burnt him. I tried to be the alpha dog. When I was a real arrogant person, I used to try and take on everyone. So that means I would try and take on I'd try and rip the girl that he's trying to talk to out of his hands. I would do whatever I could to seem relevant.
And that's because you've always felt like the world is against you.
Correct.
And I'm sure the mix of steroids as well was not good for that.
No. And I'll be honest now, man, because I've taken a fair bit of my time, I'm now on 1 mil of tests for the rest of my life. And that's the way it is. But it's very easy to control now. Very easy.
Do you regret that though, now?
Well, when I left school, I was 85 kilos. So I don't regret.
But your natural testosterone worked as well. So.
Yes, I know. Do I regret it?
Also, I'm 85 kilos, man. Fuck you.
But I've loved certain parts of my life. I've had some amazing experiences. Don't get me wrong. My parents have taken me places that have been incredible. I've been to some places. I've spent shitloads of money that I shouldn't have, and I've had my fun. Don't get me wrong, but every time I did, I knew I was doing the wrong thing.
You seem like you've got a lot of self-awareness though. You know, you're talking about the way that you used to treat people. You understand that you said the wrong things to people, treated people the wrong way, and that you were, in a lot of respects, a different person. And now you're aware of that. So how does that affect your relationships forward? When you meet new people now, are you going to treat them in a different way and see your relationship in a different way to the way you have in the past? It's
this day and age, man, it's the problem is Adelaide's such a small place. What I mean by that is that a lot of people hold grudges here in Adelaide. Whenever I talk about certain things, people are like, oh, you did this, this, and this when you were younger. And I'm like, well, I was young. I made mistakes. These days, I try my best to not fall back into that type of person. But I still get reminded of what I used to be like. And it's not easy. I've had a couple of slip-ups at the pub where I've just been so stressed and I've just turned back to the other person. But every week I get better at being the person I want to become.
So what do you want to improve?
As a person or just in generalities?
Just in your whole life.
My goal, like I said, is to be respected. And that could take a year.
Where do you think that respect comes from though?
Being a leader in my field, being a leader as a person, being a leader as a leader for Autism Ambassador, a leader show the way to people that you can be different and still succeed.
And it's got to come from treating people well, obviously.
Absolutely, man.
But I understand totally that can be so much harder when you're not treated well straight off the bat.
Yeah, no, 100%. Whenever someone has an opinion on me before they've met me, I do my absolute best. Be like, look, guys, look, whoever you are, that might have been me in those days, but that ain't me anymore.
Can you imagine your life without autism? Do you do that?
Of course, man, every day. It's called the social cancer for a reason. It's not easy. Never has been. It never will be. And I still have doubters. You know, some people say to me, you're just never going to make it. You're never going to create the life you want. And I just say, let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, you're defying that. You know, they say, like you said, social cancer, but you're not letting it stop you.
No way. I'm not going to sit and do nothing about it.
How do you accept what is and make the most of it? How do you go like, yep, okay, I know this is what life is for me. I make myself all right with that, and I go and I'm grateful for this and this, and I make the most of what I've got.
Oh, there's the certain things I'm definitely grateful. I'm grateful I've got 2 amazing parents. I've got an awesome brother who's doing an amazing job over in the Philippines. He's actually running a very large team, trying to teach him how to speak like Aussies over there. So he's got a huge job over there, and I love him to bits. And he's half here in Adelaide, half in the Philippines. So those 3 people are very important. A couple of mates like Will, Manny Mission, Matt Spire, Wayne Russell, and a couple other boys I have a lot of time for. Simon also and Chris, 2 really good friends of mine from the pub. I use them as sounding boards too. But like I said, man, it's a consistent basis. There are days that I don't want to go to bed, first to admit it, but I know if I stay in the bed, I'm never going to improve as a person. Sitting in bed and watching YouTube videos and watching motivation videos can only do so much. You've got to go out and do the work yourself.
How do you see your future?
My future, if everything goes to plan. Okay, so goal is to make this pub fully financially by itself, meaning that I don't have to be there all the time. The next goal, I would like to start a nightclub here in Adelaide, and I'd like to have a beachfront, or something beachfront as well, business.
What about outside of the external? What about relationships wise?
Oh, relationships wise, of course, I want to have a family one day, and be a dad, have a loving wife that respects me as a person, my work ethic, and someone that's going to help me be a better person and be a better man.
What about intrinsically? What sort of man do you want to be?
What I want to be, someone that people look up to and say, I want to be like that person, even though he's had trials and tribulations his entire life, which I have. I've got nothing against anyone anymore, but the amount of times I've been bullied, man, it's very difficult to break me now.
But you're being the bigger man.
100%.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? That there are still good people in this world. That life has its trials and tribulations, and if you keep pushing yourself, and you might fail for 10 years, for 5 years, for 5 months, for hours, days, but one day, if you keep pushing yourself, you will succeed in whatever you decide to choose.
That's it, bro. But I just wanted to acknowledge you before we finish up, just the fact that you've lived life with this disorder. You've been through, all these years of terrible bullying. You've had so much against you, and then you've perhaps taken some actions that you now regret, but you've had the awareness to be able to evaluate that and realize that that's not who you want to be. Be the bigger man in the face of people who aren't helping you to get where you want to go. Running a business, that comes with all the struggles and difficulties that comes with. But
absolutely,
it's worth it because you want to get to where you want to get to. And inside all of the external that you want to achieve, it sounds like a major part of what you want your life to be is becoming the kind of man that can be respected because they're going to treat other people well and be someone that people want to look up to. And then also, especially for other people with autism. So I would just encourage you to make sure you get to the point where you can speak about it and you can be a voice for this condition, because there's hundreds of thousands of people out there who need someone to step up and be that kind of person. And I think that's the biggest gift you can give to the world. So I would just say respect, brother, and looking forward to seeing you get to wherever you need to get to.
I really appreciate that, man. And one person I definitely want to not live up to, but get respect from one day is my old man. He's extremely hard to get respect from. So that's a goal of mine, and that's going to take time. So I really appreciate you bringing me on. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Facebook, Instagram. Zaine Schmidt's my full name. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And if anyone wants to know anything, they're more than welcome to contact me.
If you got something out of this episode, please leave a comment and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us grow the show so we can keep bringing you the content that matters. If you want to stay up to date with what we're doing and get involved, get onto the Youngblood Podcast Community Facebook group and follow Youngblood Podcast on Instagram. And if you're keen to get in touch with me, email youngbloodpodcast, all one word, @hotmail.com. This podcast was produced by the talented Rory Noak at Podbooth. You can check them out at podbooth.com.au. This is Youngblood. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.